この番組はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。Alrighty, welcome everyone. I'm Teeaboo and I am here for 1 and a 2 and a 3 of Kyousougiga, a 4 and a 5 and a 6 of Kyousougiga. We're on episode 6 of Kyousougiga. Hey, Kyousougiga. Alright. We're here for episode 6 of Kyousougiga. Last week's episode of Kyousougiga, he says cheerfully, our main character, sort of, not really, Yakushimaru was revealed to be deeply and desperately clinically depressed. Also, I'm really caffeinated this morning, and I just realized that I'm almost out of tea, so I'm going to be right back, and I'm going to go grab some more tea. See you in a moment. Much better, much better. So where were we? Kyousougiga, we discovered that Yakushimaru is deeply depressed in a really bad way. So I actually wanted to start off today's reaction episode with something a little bit more real world and a little bit more serious. So I went and grabbed this little tiny short 9-question questionnaire. And this is a questionnaire that's very familiar to me. I fill out one of these pretty much every month. Sometimes it varies by a few days because I'm not super great at keeping up with this. But those who don't know, I'm going to be a little bit candid about something. I suffer from depression. I have for a good long time. A part of that is personal and normal. A part of that is like chemical and neurochemical, and a lot of that neurochemical part is very much my fault. I caused some damage to my own brain by experimenting a bit too much with certain recreational drugs in college. That was a very bad idea, and I would highly recommend not doing that. There are other places on the channel where I've talked about that, but they're a long time ago, so I just wanted to mention it to give a little context here. But this is the it's a slightly altered version that's based on the PHQ-9, the Patient Health Questionnaire 9. And this is a little chart that's used by the ADAA, the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, to some extent quantify how an individual feels about their own potential for depression. My first experience with one of these charts was I went into my my university doctor's office for something unrelated. I think I had it was something silly. It was like an ear infection or something like that. But I went in for something silly like that. Not silly, but simple like that. And the first thing that was done, we were near exams time. And the first thing that was done when I went into a GP at the school was they handed me this little questionnaire. And we're like, here, fill this out. And it was this exact questionnaire. And I handed it back to my doctor. And she looked at it and said, "You're fucking depressed, kid. And you want to do something about that?" I was like, "Yeah, actually, I kind of do." I hadn't really put it into words that way, like I'm depressed, but when you ask these more specific questions about how you feel about yourself, it becomes kind of obvious if you are suffering from it. So I wanted to go through this and just do a little exercise where we go through and mark what we think Yakushimaru might be experiencing on this little chart. And maybe, again, just maybe, there will be one person out there who watches this and goes, "Holy shit, I would be marking stuff on that chart. I should do something about this." And if you are that person, feel free to reach out to me, either via the Discord or wherever else, or even here. I'll see if Editing Me remembers to put a little thing here. You can send me an email, and I'll talk to you more in person if you'd like, about something that I do, which is that I have an app on my phone. And I every month I go onto that app and I go, "Can I get a refill?" And then a doctor sends me this, almost exactly this questionnaire, and I fill it out accurately and honestly, and they're like, "Yep, you have a refill." And I get my prescription for an antidepressant, which I will hide like certain information on, but I take generic citalopram. I get 20 milligram tablets, and I've been taking half because the 20 actually makes me a little wonky. But figuring that kind of stuff out is something to do later on. The first thing to do is to figure out, are you okay? And so let's do that for Yakushimaru really quick. Our first question, and all of these questions are not scaled in like, oh, I feel super feel this or I don't feel this at all. They're scaled from this never happens to me to this happens to me every day, with two in between, which are several days and more than half of the days. So a little scale of frequency instead of seriousness. And that what that allows the individual to do is to determine what they think the question actually means. And that's really helpful. So the first one is, and all of these start with the question, over the last 2 weeks, how often have you been bothered by any of the following problems? And the first one is little interest in or pleasure in doing things. And the options are not at all, several days, more than half the days, nearly every day. And I think Yakushimaru, we've seen him wander around and like do nothing and get pissed off about nothing. I think this is a nearly everyday thing for Yakushimaru. For me, when I'll add me into this chart just for fun. I usually will mark several days on this little chart. Sometimes there will be pairs of weeks or sections where I feel gung-ho and good, and then I will mark not at all, and sometimes there are weeks where I feel worse, and I'll get more than half the days on this one. But this isn't something that affects me nearly every day or anything like that. For Yakushimaru, second question, feeling down, depressed, or hopeless. This is a more broad thing, because it's like, do you self-identify as being depressed, as the question? For me, again, this also comes up usually several days in a 2-week span. For Yakushimaru, I think it's either more than half the days or nearly every day, strongly. Trouble falling or staying asleep or sleeping too much is the third one. I fuck my sleep schedule up constantly, so this usually gets to several days for me because that's just how I fuck myself up. It's not usually my emotional state prevents me from sleeping or causes me to like sleep in too much. It's usually I fucked up my sleep schedule or my like eating schedule during the day, and that's kept me up or made me have to sleep longer, yada yada yada. But we saw Yakushimaru wake up because of bad dreams in the middle of the night. So I'm going to say several days for Yaku over there. Number 4, feeling tired or having little energy. It's kind of hard to say with Yakushimaru. I usually end up putting not at all or several days for this one. Again, mostly because of my own sleep schedule being pretty shitty. But that's my fault and not my depression's fault, and there's a distinction. For Yakushimaru, he does seem pretty glum and tired all the time, so let's say several days to be safe. Poor appetite or overeating. It's really hard to know on this one. He seems to eat fairly frequently, so let's put never. It just isn't a part of his experience. Feeling bad about yourself or that you are a failure or have let yourself or your family down. Usually I put a not at all on this one. Mostly for me, my experience with depression is an innate like level of being where my normal is much below what normal probably should be, as opposed to something specific in my life which causes me to be depressed. Yakushimaru, on the other hand, this gets a nearly every day. Feeling bad about yourself or that you are a failure or have let yourself or your family down. It's like, that's his existence. That's who this character is. Number 7, trouble concentrating on things such as watching the newspaper or watching the newspaper or reading television. I guess you could with subtitles on. Reading the newspaper or watching television. I never have this, partly because when I'm in the deepest part of my depression, my thing is to seek out as much content as I can and drown my brain in it so that I can escape from what I'm actually thinking about, which is great and super healthy. Yakushimaru, it's hard to say on this one, but he does seem unhinged, not unhinged, unanchored, and sort of like he doesn't have much attention for things. But we don't really know, so let's say either not at all or several days. Number 8, moving or speaking so slowly that other people have noticed, or the opposite, being so fidgety or restless that you've been moving around a lot more than usual. I never experience either of these, really. I'm generally fidgety anyway. I mean, you can see I'm literally, as he says, as he's fidgeting with his headphone cord because it's fun to fidget with. I like fidgeting with things. It's fun. You'll see me fidget with things constantly. I fidget with pencils. I fidget with the headphone cable. If I have dice and I've had to remove the dice that I put on my desk for fidgeting because they keep going clickety clack, and it's really annoying. that's just generally how I am. I don't find myself moving super slowly. Yakushimaru either. I don't notice any of this with him, so we'll say not at all. And finally, the big whammy, the big one that's like, okay, this one's real danger material. Number 9, thoughts that you would be better off dead or of hurting yourself in some way. I never have these personally. My depression does not involve thoughts of self-harm or suicide, and I'm lucky in that regard. Generally, it's my depression comes in the form of like, fuck, the world is hard. God damn it, why do I have to do work to make it less hard? Oh well, I wish that I could do the work, but then I have trouble like making myself do work. So my form of depression is more aimed at like I never feel like jumping out of the game is the answer. It's always more that the struggle has beaten me down. Yakushimaru, on the other hand, oh boy, all of this, all the time, constantly, his whole character is built around him not dying when his parents died in a fire when he was a child and he tried to kill himself and fucking succeeded and then got brought back by somebody and made, as far as we can tell, made immortal, preventing him from ever achieving that goal. Holy macaroni, yes, nearly every day. Hell, take the nearly off, cut that shit out. It is just an everyday, all day, all night experience for Yakushimaru. His life is this question incarnate. And the final thing, which is not really a question on the test, or on the questionnaire, it's a modifier to the rest of the questions, which is if you clicked on any of the problems above, how difficult have they made it for you to do your work, take care of things at home, or get along with other people? 3 generalizations: get your shit done, keep your house in order, and socialize. And usually the answer is pretty difficult. For me, these make things at least somewhat difficult. Generally, some weeks I feel a lot better about it. I've been feeling a lot better about it in general recently because of D&D, sort of forcing yourself onto an interactive social stage is pretty good way to prevent yourself from like having the option to run away from social encounters and stuff. But Yakushimaru, he pushes people away. He pushes other people away. Did I mention that he pushes people away? Yeah, extremely difficult. This makes his whole he hasn't been doing his work, doesn't even know what he should be doing because there's no point. His home is well taken care of, I suppose, but he's having a tough time dealing with it now that there are a bunch of kids running around fucking everything up with their magic hammers. Grr. And getting along with other people. Did I mention he pushes people away? Extremely difficult for Yakushimaru. So quantifiably, on a pretty well-regarded example of a type of little questionnaire that you might receive in a doctor's office, Yakushimaru would walk out of that doctor's office with a prescription and a reference to a therapist. Like 100%. There's no way he walks out of that doctor's office without a pill bottle in his hand. There is a way, which is that you say, I don't want prescription drugs in my system, and the doctor goes, well, okay, but you're gonna have a harder time. And in my experience, the doctor is right, as somebody who resisted taking prescription antidepressants for a long time, because it's real hard at this point to actually even repeat the justifications that might have gone through my mind when I was like, nah, I don't want to take them. It's up to me. A lot of it was internalized stuff that I got from my parents around work and work ethics and how work is the way to solve everything, and I don't think that's necessarily true, especially when you can't find the motivation in yourself to do any work without a bit of a change. And sometimes that antidepressant, that bit of a neurochemical change, can be the thing. This is not meant to be a section of the video where I go, hey, everybody go get checked for depression. But it is a section where I'm going to say, hey, y'all are sitting at home watching anime. I sit at home and watch anime. A lot of people who sit at home a lot get depressed. There's nothing shameful about that. I'm depressed. I'm still depressed. I'm on medication for it. That doesn't make it go away. It definitely helps with the symptoms, but it doesn't make it go away, and it doesn't make it like easier. Well, it does make it easier. But I guess my whole point is not to be here being like, go get prescription drugs, they're amazing, or, you know, therapy's the bomb, or whatever. I'm not really trying to make a recommendation here. Just trying to state clearly how I feel about this particular element of this character and how this character stacks up to maybe other people in this world from a medical perspective. And the answer is, this boy fucking depressed. If he was not immortal, he would kill himself. There is a problem here. Big problem. Big problem. He just asked Kodo to help him kill himself once they find their mother. Jesus. So anyway, I don't really know how to wrap this thing up. I wanted to put this section in the video because I think it makes sense to talk about it here. I also feel like it makes sense for me to add my own, like, interpretation of this here. And it can be easy to look at a character in anime and be like, oh, they've got droopy eyes, they're sad or depressed, right? But when you've got a character that actually exhibits these traits, specifically pushing people away, specifically feeling like a failure, specifically like waking up in the middle of the night, specifically having no interest in doing things that once held his interest. When we see that, we see him being more interested as a child, and then not now. There's something going on there that's more than just, oh, this character is sad. No, this character is broken inside and could be fixed. Maybe. And that might be the story that we're telling, and it might not. I don't know yet. But I'm really curious to find out. And I hope, if nothing else, that maybe one person watching this was like, shit, that's what depression means? That's interesting. I kind of identify with some of those things. Maybe I should think about that. Because the most important stage in figuring out how to deal with depression is recognizing that it's not just you, and it's not just the way you are, and it's not just, oh, I don't feel motivated or I feel tired today. If there's a consistency to the way you feel those things, you could have a neurochemical imbalance, and that could be caused by events in your life, or it could be caused by genetics and welcome to the world. And that could be fucked and can tear you apart if you don't know about it, and even if you do know about it. But knowing about it is the first step to combating it and to recognizing that while it's a part of you, it's not you. And you can change that and change your relationship to depression and to yourself and to your own emotions. So I think that's very useful, and I wanted to talk about it. Kind of takes us on a massive tangent, because now we gotta sort of loop around and segue back to Kyousougiga itself. Luckily, we don't really know what's going to be happening next in Kyousougiga, and basically the whole episode last time was focused pretty solidly on Yakushimaru, so there's not much groundwork for me to do at this point, except to say, I don't know what's going to happen. We saw the first sequence, or the first scene of the preview, and it looked like a party or a festival of some kind. I don't know what, I don't know where, I don't know why, but cool. We have now gone through one by one all of our core characters, as far as I know, and demonstrated their place in this world and some of their relationships with each other. So from this point, I expect we can build that out, and I don't know how we're going to do that. I kind of have two thoughts. One is we jump straight into story beats. Yakushimaru asks this of Koto, and boom, we're in it, we're going, we're chasing down the white rabbit, or the black rabbit, blah, 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 blah. Or we just have this as groundwork and foundation for the society in the city, and we just do normal events in the city and watch these characters play off of each other for a little while, before involving them in some grander conflict and actually exploring the world-altering stakes that are pretty obviously here, when world-altering was episode 1 and 2, I guess. So I'm excited to see what comes next. I don't know what's going to come next, but I am certainly looking forward to it. Kyousougiga has continued to be a fascinating show. I mean, granted, I'm doing it with help of a chart and with, like, talking about myself and stuff, but still, I've recorded solidly more than 15 minutes talking about just the medical possibilities for a single character in this show, and there are a bunch of characters in this show, and they're all pretty well fleshed out. Pretty well fleshed out. So I think that's pretty fucking cool, if you ask me. Okay, all that having been said, all that having been done, let's watch some show. That's what you're all here for. So I've got episode 6 of Kyousougiga up and ready to go. I'm still using the same subs. Some people have mentioned, they've been like, these subs aren't super great, and nobody's presented me with an alternative, so I'm still using the same Demon Hero subs. If you've got better subs, tell me about them so that I can make my experience of watching this show better. If you don't have subs, hang out, man. Just chillax. We're gonna watch some anime. I've got episode 6 of Kyousougiga up and ready to go using the same subs. It is at 0 seconds. There will be lost my train of thought there. There will be 2 versions of this reaction video. You can find a picture-in-picture version with the video up there, linked in the description down there, and a timer-based version up on YouTube. If you would like to do a syncy thing and sync up your own copy of this episode with the timer-based version, you are welcome to do so. Just get your copy ready because the beep beep timer to count you down will be coming at you shortly. Bada bing. Hello, door. Yes, yes. Yes, yes. Still don't know what that means. Maybe the Bodhisattva. So that doggo must have gotten frozen in time as well, right? Because, like, obviously. It's the same dog, right? Also, dogs and cats, and no, because he's already a fox. I was gonna make a wild guess, but I immediately discovered that wouldn't work. Like you know, they're doggo. Is it though? Is it? Ooh, back here. Cool, cool, cool. Love being here. Oh, wow, it is not just their family. A whole lot of people died here. Yeah. Yeah. And a dagger. Oh boy. Plan of 2. Trouble of 1. Ah and un? Alright, hi Mioe. Hello, dead boy. No. No! Okay, so here we are at this scene. Eh? What'd you do? Hubby? Ah, I brought gifts! Wait, he's... but corpse. So how did they turn him? It has to do with the fruit. Aha. Super optimistic. So they pray to a bodhisattva? He draws something with his own crimson blood. A fruit. Which means that Yakushimaru is given life by his father, Mioe. What the fuck? What the fuck? Uh-huh. We saw him giving some of the fruit to Koto. Oh, don't eat it yourself. Does that mean young Koto has eaten it? Bite it, kiss him with it? Weird. Very weird. But okay. Okay. New heart, new life. Hello, fruit. Hello, mom. Hello, dad, who also has half of the fruit. Wonder what happens to those halves of fruit. Uh-huh. Welcome to your new life. You're alive, by the way. Kid who only wanted to be dead. Haha. Get fucked. Oh. Yeah. Not dead. Mom. Jesus. Creepy ritual. Which is where you are right now. Yes, I wanted that. Hmm? How dare you? How dare you? He's gonna fucking attack you. Or try and kill himself again. That's not gonna work, is it? It's just not gonna work. What a nightmare. Reverse. Fuck. Yeah, thanks. Why couldn't you give that to my family before they died? That is so terrifying. The desire to live on is innate. Even if you don't want to. That doesn't make forcing somebody to stay alive good. I don't know if you will. He just seems to be shattered now. Doesn't seem happy about this at all. Okay, and so we're gonna make him some brothers and sisters to have friends, right? Because that'll fix it. fix it. All this shit just happens around him. Why are you sneaking up on him? Three animals. What's up with that? That's super expressive. What? Aww. And it starts to change, eh? Just a bit. A brother. And a sister. Okay, the three animals are legitimate manifestations here. That's new. Kurama just reading. Also, how you gonna take the middle of your episode and do at least a 2-minute dialogue-free scene? Because that's awesome to just do that. It's pretty bold. Hello, Papergrass. They did head up here. Hmm. It's a mirror. Of course it is. I was about to say, from where? Yeah, no shit he wouldn't. It's kind of important. Hmm. Depends on who your master is. Ooh, what a shot. They gonna put this together? Oh my god! Oh my god! They're fully not gonna. Oh my god! Hmm. Yeah, I was about to say specifically Kurama, because Yase. The cycle of desiring to. Yeah, to. God, they always. They know what they're implying, then they say stuff that implies it better. He's becoming like his not father, trying to protect someone. Very true, she did not say yes. Hi, Yase. Yes, but. Yes. Everything. Oh, that. Aratama. Same underlying magic of some. Oh. Mm-hmm. Fair. I think that's the point. Team Rocket blasting off. I'm sorry, it just sounded like a. It sounded like that. Hmm. Fishing in the outside world. Fishing. Explain what fishing means, please. Probably not. You do. Doubt is important. But she will agree. Nyom. Okay. Oh, there's that scene. Are these all paper lanterns? For some people. Hmm. 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 Oh. How? I wasn't serious. Uh-oh. 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 If you're fishing, you need bait? You did not mention which form of assistance you'd be willing to give. To play with whom? Oh. Hmm. I'm sorry. I missed what was on screen there. 1920 or so. All right, hammers out. Action scene. Fight Bishamaru. Uh-huh. Okay. All the conflict that's right under the surface. She did. That big hammer ain't shit. Also super true. Thanks, Kurama. Hello, animals. Okay. So we've got multiple fights going on in the same space at the same time. And it's also both a legitimate fight and exactly, thank you again, Sho, for saying the thing that you just implied really well. Family ties. End it. Oh boy. The beads. The beads. Oh, what? And in the meantime, Bishamaru falls. Uh-oh. And what is that? And what is that? Is that the end of the episode? No. Good. Hello, Hammer. Welcome to the inside of Bishamaru. This is what we're fishing with, right? What? That's the doorway. Uh... This is where all the... No, okay. What is this location? Let us out. This is the moonscape where we see Kodo. That's what's happening. We're going fishing. What? What was this episode? That was awesome. How do you have an episode with like 2 minutes of silence that is the deeply emotional character development and then also a crazy action sequence against a fucking giant robot in a nonsense space? How do you have those two things in the same episode? I don't know how you make that work. It doesn't compute in my brain, but it works. Ooh. What? Is this back? Okay, so you might have seen me like looking up and thinking during the ED, and what I was thinking about was how many other shows have I seen that demonstrate an equivalent mastery of tone? Because that's what's going on here is a genuine mastery of tone. How else do you explain an episode where the first half is a suicidal child not even coming to reckon with, just seeing the realization that, not reckoning with, not logicking out, not rationalizing, just dealing with the fact that he is alive against his will. That is the first half of the episode, and it ends with a scene that is, I want to know how long the scene is so that I don't mistake it. How long is it? I'm going to turn the volume up, that we have just music, no dialogue. Okay, here's where we go and get a meal. We fade out, we fade in, 9 minutes and 9 seconds. Still silent, 11 minutes. 11 minutes and 20 seconds. It's 2 minutes and 10 seconds of this, of just music and just characters acting. No faces animated on them, and yet they are acting, and it is obvious, and there is character to them. I don't know where that... Oh, it's right after she swoops for him. Is this little moment where he obviously... Like, what do I think he's saying here? This is all your fault. So they say something. Kodo says something to him, but we love you. He goes, Kodo giggles for a moment, jumps up on the wall, and forcefully embraces him. Your family. You don't get to go away. We love you. And he is hurt by it. That doesn't mean that it's wrong, but he is hurt by it. All of that with like, essentially no faces. Just body language and posture. How do we have that in the same episode as bonkers over the top, action music starts, you're in a trap, giant robot fight, giant hammer versus smaller hammer, with little weird animals watching while another fight happens at the same time and a crazy science lady controls a giant robot that's trying to kill you with a PSP. How do these two things function in the same 25 minutes? And the answer is they shouldn't. But they do, right? So I'm trying to think of another show that does that as well as this does that. And there's an element here of like, because everything is chaotic and crazy and all in a fantasy-ish world, you can jump between things more easily, but you still have to justify it in world and in narrative. You still have to justify the transition. And God, it works. God, it works. You know how it works? It works like this. The internal state of a character does not determine the tone of the show at the moment. Okay? Let me put that a different way. The tone of Yakushimaru is depression. But his actions in a scene when he is with his siblings might not be entirely centered around his tone, because the tone of the scene is a combination of all the characters working together or against each other in one sequence. So we get Kurama's tone, his feeling of like duty and laws and order and that kind of stuff that is Kurama, but also this manipulative aspect. We get that tone for Yase that's like nostalgic and deeply invested in holding on to the past, but it's also crazy and has a horrible temper and is a demon, is a monster, but also a person. And we get Yakushimaru, who is depression, and we get Kodo, who is change, right? And we throw all those things into one arena, and then we say, also giant robot fight. That's what's happening in the world, and that sets the tone, influenced by all of the individual characters. But we can at any point zoom in, and all of the tone setting from around that, all of the giant robot and the crazy world and the subway, the station events and the PSPs and the organizations behind the scene, all of that fades away into the background as it blurs out as we focus in on Yakushimaru. What is Yakushimaru feeling, and what is motivating him? His depression almost always is the answer. His desire to die, his desire to figure out a way to do that is seemingly what compels him to find his parents, to find his mother. So we go from it's the difference. Okay, here's a great analogy, and I'm so proud of myself for making this up. A lot of shows are a painting, a picture, right? You look at it and you see depth in the ink that's been applied or the paints that have been applied. You see character and style and such in the art itself. But it's still flat. It's still a piece of paper or a piece of canvas or a piece of something else with paint upon it, and it is flat. And you can layer out as much paint as you want, but it doesn't gain any innate intricacy because at core, regardless of how good the artists are, I use artist in an extremely broad sense. Artists being writers, artists being storyboard artists, artists being voice actors, artists, people creating the thing. Regardless of how talented they are and how much intrigue they put into a show afterward, if you don't have that beforehand, it's still a painting. This show is not a painting, it is a tapestry. What's the difference between a tapestry and a painting? A tapestry is woven from individually dyed fibers, right? So it forms one picture, one image, one design, one pattern, more often than not a pattern as opposed to a specific image. So instead of being something that is easily interpretable and representative of something, like if you look at the painting of the Venus, or I'm sorry, the painting of Aphrodite coming out of the shell, and she's like, you look at it, you're like, that's a nude woman. She's real beautiful. She's coming out of the sea or something. I guess she's a goddess. Real easy to interpret because it is what it says on the tin. It is what it looks like. It is a painting of that. But a lot of tapestries are more like geometric designs. They're familiar and they represent something innate, whether that innate thing is like a houndstooth pattern or something like that, or if that innate thing is the pleasing nature of symmetrical geometry. They represent something semi-recognizable that we like can feel as a part of our world or as a representation of some concept in our world. But if you get closer to a tapestry, you start to see that this world is not just made up of the pattern that it looks like, but the individual fibers, the individual threads that make up that pattern. And those individual threads are each individually dyed different colors, and different colors in different places, right? To make the pattern come to life. So what is Kyousougiga? It is a tapestry. It is a world constructed from individual threads that are its characters. And that's a super cool realization to have, because what it means is you can get really close on the red part of the tapestry and dig deep into it and find the anger where all of these characters intersect in being angry or unhappy, right? But you can also go to the dark parts of the tapestry, the blacks and the browns and the grays, and you find Yakushimaru threads that seep in under the surface, right? Creating that darkness, being that tension and drama and depression. and you look for joy and exuberance in the gold threads that are in there, and you find them in Kodo, and you also find them in Shoko. You find this joy and this liveliness and this childishness, and you find bits and pieces that are actually, you don't think they are, but they're linked to Yase threads, and that's interesting. And you find Kurama's bits of pleasure that he takes when things run well, when the order that he has implemented is effective, and those are bits of joy too. But all of them are parts of all of the characters, and the whole picture is not, it both is and is not a structural representation of the inner worlds of its characters, because it is and it isn't, because it's not their world. They've shaped it to an extent, but they can't shape it the way they want it to be shaped. All right, so let me leak some brain fluid out of my ears for a moment, and I'm gonna sip some tea and leak brain fluid for a moment, and then I'll be back in a second. In the meantime, I think I'm gonna go to ANN and look up who was in charge of this episode, because that seems like a thing to do. See you in a minute. Okay, so the storyboard credit is shared with episode 5, which we just watched, and that's Junji Shimizu, who we covered last time, but has worked on a bunch of Precure stuff, which I do want to mention as a storyboarding thing, because my experience with like, as I'm rewatching a segment of Go Princess Precure, one of the things that I've noticed consistently about Precure is the quality of simple storyboards and framing. The simple ways that the eye is drawn around the frame, especially in action sequences, are really cool, and kind of a standout thing about an otherwise like really simple show. So credit there. And then this episode is directed by Morio Hatano, who has even more Precure credits, a lot more Precure credits than Shimizu, having worked on Kira Kira, Hugto, Heartcatch, Happiness Charge, Go Princess, and Sweet, and Star Twinkle. So 7 Precures, has done storyboard and or episode direction for all of those, and has multiple episodes on almost all of those. So a whole lot there from both the director and the storyboarder making this episode. That's kind of cool to see, I think. I think that's really cool. How do I run through this episode? And where do I find okay, there's an element that happens in this episode a few times, and I fully have forgotten when it happens and when I said that I was going to talk about it, because I'm a dum-dum and I didn't write down the actual timestamps. It would take me watching through the episode again to find it, and I don't want to do that because time. So I'm not going to, but I'm going to mention it anyway. There is a tendency for the show so far, it happened at least twice during this episode, to lead characters to a certain conclusion, and by characters I mean lead the audience to a certain conclusion, and then to give us enough time and enough information to come to that conclusion, and then to have a character state it in a way that's more concise than I could have stated it. And I don't remember when those happened, but if we just stumble across one as we go through the episode, which I still plan to do, then we'll talk about it. Which is a great transition, because we're going to go through the whole episode. The first half of the episode is really dark. It's really dark. We saw bits and pieces of this, but we did not see the scale of this destruction. And while we anchored it in the emotions of the character, we did not explore them to the extent that we do here. We watch his descent into, there is nothing left for me. This world is just pain. I'm going to die immediately and join my parents, which we didn't see completely before. And we see Myoe sort of whistling saunter up to this dead child and be like, ooh, taking this one home, which is insanity. What the fuck? I don't even know how to talk about that, because it's so removed from rational human behavior. But but it's exactly the behavior of gods, of deities, and that is what Myoe is to this world. So makes sense. By that I mean if you look back at the actions of like ancient Greek deities, they would do stupid shit like this, like weird stuff like Zeus was wandering around in the form of a bull or something because he was banging some bull ladies, which he liked to do occasionally. Wandering around as a bull, and he stumbles across the corpse of a child. And he's like, "Ooh, you're my son now. You're alive." Okay. It's a very God thing to do. And part of that is like there's a disconnect between the potential feelings of this child and the desires that Myoe puts upon him, right? Huh. Oh wait, isn't there a line about that in a little bit? Hmm. There is. I thought so. But you know, head priest, you shouldn't push your expectations on kids. There's such a subtle implication here. It's cyclical, right? Right? Myoe pushed his expectations on his first child, who wasn't his child, who he fucking pulled out of the snow and revivified. It put a lot of expectations on him, and then created and fully made in a particular image that was only expectations, both Yase and Kurama, and they've been struggling against those their entire lives. And that has led them to mislead and push their own expectations on Kodo as their potential savior and to test her. Right? There's something there. The source of all of this, or the spark for this portion of the conversation, was like there's a disconnect between the desires, expectations, and understanding of the world that Myoe has and what he expects as a result of his actions. Like, oh, thank you for saving me from a death that I chose. That's not what he gets. He gets, how dare you, monster. And most amazingly to me, that is not demonstrated through dialogue almost at all. Almost at all. Once we get the scene of his awakening and his arrival here, dialogue barely comes into play. It's just mostly cryptic. Who are you? What did you do to me? Etc. Everything else is framing. Okay, so this is a moment where we are in Kodo's mind, right? We are seeing and feeling her expression, and we see what she feels. She feels unsettled and like a compassionate desire to help, but not knowing how. What do we see in Kodo in this scene? We're in Yakushimaru's mind. We see a looming figure back behind his shoulder, standing near or in front of one of the only exits. We see a trap. Okay, so we get this sequence. We see in Myoe's mind, original Myoe's mind, how does he feel? Ambivalent, calm, pleased with himself. How is he seen by Yakushimaru? A shadowed figure in the corner looming over him? How does he feel about himself when he says these things? You were dead, so I picked you up and revived you. Matter of fact. Very simple. I wanted a thing, so I did the thing. It's been done. Aren't you happy about this? It would be great if you could be our son from now on. Flash, 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 flash. Terror, 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 terror. Overwhelmed, overwhelmed, overwhelmed. Running away. And a little bit later, yeah, I mean, he tries to kill himself again. This is a horror scene. These, like, close-cut shots are claustrophobic and horrific. Finding out you cannot die and want to. Terrible. Terrible. Who is Myoe to him? Oh, it's just a wee bit of immortality, nothing to worry about, says the dark figure looming in the open doorway, backlit by snow. Dark and shadowed, his expression unclear. As he reveals to you that he has the power to bestow immortality, but he got here too late for your whole family and you're the only survivor and now you can't die? Ha ha! That can't be. Oh, it can, he says as he looms and slowly comes closer. This first half of the episode is a horror movie with Myoe as the monster. And all of that is through framing and through like reverse shots of how this character is responding to this, which is his eyes glaze over and he goes dead inside and he fully disconnects. Like fully disassociates is the word that I was looking for. Like, I'm not here. Don't worry about it. You'll get used to this, he says as he steps casually into the pool of your own blood, causing it to ripple out around his sandal. Nani the fuck? Nani the fuck? And this whole sequence is intentionally, and I'm making this is a little bit of a guess, but it's not that much of a guess. What happens in every anime when characters argue, but we don't have a way to resolve their argument, except like we got to go off and do something. Well, a character's tummy grumbles. Little tummy grumble up in there is like, oh, we got to do the food thing. Guess we got to forget about our problems for right now and go do the food thing, because that's part of being alive. Very deeply intentional here, I think, that we come right to the head of this terrifying moment. Music all the way up, right? This, immediately after being told you'll get used to it, being immortal. It's totally normal. You'll totally get used to this. No sweat, bud. Oh god, 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 oh god. About to say something, right? Like, you're not my parents, you're not my family, you did this against my will, I want to die. Let me go. Let me go. You've trapped me. Let me go. And instead, your tummy grumbles and we do the anime. There's a blending between, like, storytelling tropes and like, anime tropes. Well, not storytelling tropes. Just the story being told. And then it is sort of, sometimes the anime tropes are there, and it's just interesting. It's just really interesting. But we put it all aside. And we do the family. We do the family. And Yakushimaru does not want to be a part of it. And that has never changed. So we get this face and the line, soon you'll be glad you're alive. Why? Because Koto makes great food. And we leave with this kid kneeling in a pool of his own blood, his expression dead. Just fully dead. We did it! We saved the boy. He's saved now. He's alive. Isn't he happy? Look at him. He's so happy. He's saved now. You did it. You saved him. Only to put him in hell. The word that comes up a little later in the episode. So then we transition from this being the last time we have seen Yakushimaru's face to a fully 2-minute long sequence where there are no faces. And where Yakushimaru, well, I guess there's a little bit of a face here as he creeps up on Myoe. It's hard to interpret this particular scene, but I think it is that Yakushimaru, despite himself, has interest in the drawings that are being drawn. And I think that implies that Myoe goes ahead and makes more of those drawings specifically to please Yakushimaru, which makes all the sense in the world. Regardless, the point that I'm trying to make is we go from this cut of him dead inside to him in the same pose, looking outward but dead inside, and we stay there for a while. He finally turns a little bit, becomes more lively, but that liveliness is in rebellion against these parents who will not have any of it and just laugh it off. And he eventually does eat with them, and we see some moments of quiet tenderness, but on the inside, did anything change? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that's what that whole sequence tells us. This is the passage of time, but it is not a vision of change. So, siblings, animals. Don't understand what that's about, but okay. Fighting, running around, jumping around, and then the split occurs. The whole story of the show in that montage, right? It all turned out the way the monk said it would. I don't know what he means here. I got cold feet. What is he? Cold feet on going back to the real world and dying? I love her response to this. I'm not gonna laugh at you. Everybody's got their shit, man. It's all good. So we get to questions about mirrors. I really like this shot, by the way. There's an interplay between like the main line of the house and these framing foreground objects. I guess they're leaves or bushes or something. Super nice. Same with this and like the mountainsides coming together. It's super cool. Where'd you get that mirror coin thing? I asked my dad for it and he wouldn't give it to me. How weird. I just wanted connections between me and mom. So they have a legitimately open conversation. I mean, they just had that crazy open conversation in the field where he was like, I want to die. And she's like, oh, okay. My master shouldn't be allowed to hog it, right? And this transitions into, at this point, really dramatic cut change that shows us that there's a distinct change going on in the conversation, right? The angle has shifted. Man, I've gotten so used to calling my dad master. Oh, it feels like that's dripping with subtext, right? It feels like it's dripping with subtext. Calling my dad master, following him. It's kind of a reversal of Yakushimaru, who kind of like, if we don't see it happen, and I don't know if it happens, but he had to learn to call a master dad, right? More than anything, he was forced into something. Wanna see a picture. And at this point, every audience member, alarm bells go off, lights start blaring. It's like, oh, they're gonna figure it out. They're gonna figure it out. And they don't. They don't. They have all the details there, right? Like, who that face? Who that be? Huh, it looks kind of like you. But he's super way too young to be your dad. That's super weird. Oh yeah, now that you mention it, he hasn't altered in his age at all for a while. Oh, that's weird. You know who else might not alter in age? My dad. That's kind of weird. Hey, by the way, do you have any pictures of your mom? Yeah, sure. Here. It's Kodo. Oh, you mean like the black rabbit photo that I have that's exactly like it, but also is a black rabbit and is not her, but she has rabbit ears? How weird. How interesting that they're the same person, and also that my name is Kodo. How odd. Also, Yase had a picture of her in her house. That's cool. I haven't put that together at all. She even holds it up to the light as though there's going to be some revelation as she looks at the shape. She looks at the shape a little bit more abstractly and is like, "Wait, she's a rabbit. What's going on here?" It's like she's somebody. How interesting. But she doesn't. But they don't. That's pretty neat. Wow. This is cool. And it ends up just being a genuine and lovely little moment of connection between characters, sharing their life stories, sharing background and stuff. Like long lost siblings who don't know they're long lost siblings almost. How interesting and odd that there are so many similarities between them in their lives. And Yase and Kurama, and his face darkens, and the tone shifts again. Listen. You're part of some plan of theirs. Be careful, especially of Kurama. And we get this really cute line. You can put baka at the end of it, obviously, and it fits a little better, I think. But it doesn't fit the tone of the show better. It fits the line better. It's like, I don't care about you or anything, but I'd rather not have something happen to you. Baka, right? I'm the same in the end. No sweat. I got brawn, and I'm not going to kill you yet. Or I haven't agreed to. Okay, cut over here. We get a great expression from Yase in a moment. Oh, yeah, I love this little thing. The credibility of your belief aside, it's definitely worth investigating. Why won't the things she breaks fix themselves? Remember her hammer? It's blah, 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 blah. Something magnetism. Get this great face from her that's just like, what the fuck are you talking about, Kurama? Stop it. Just tell me straight that something's weird. He's just, What I understand now is that I don't understand what you're talking about. To investigate the strange coincidences and to test our assumptions and hypotheses, I propose an experiment to work jointly with you, our two departments working together. Hey, what's the last experiment that we heard about that Kurama did? Oh yeah, he stole her stuffed animal and threw it through the portal. Or through the station place or something. And it did work, but they don't know that. So how does Kurama go about experiments? Smash the thing, destroy your relationship with your friends, figure out if the thing is interesting. Not ask questions first, find answers to the questions, then try to make the most educated hypothesis possible, then test it. He just throws shit at the wall. He's not a great scientist. It's been too long since we went fishing. A drawing of a door. So some things are not entirely clear here. But the basics are, we both want the same thing. Let's work together. And all will go well. Who needs doubt? Everyone needs doubt. Very well, the festival should prove lively, and indeed it shall. Welcome to the festival. It's a festival. Light a candle as an offering. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Be stingy, and the gods get stingy too. They say money can even buy you passage out of hell. Hell? What do you mean, hell? Little pithy throwaway joke. So this is hell? Doesn't look like hell. Oh, you silly thing. Yeah, this is hell. We're trapped here forever, being tortured endlessly by the people we can't stand in the world, our family. You imagine a worse hell. This is terrible. And as he says this, it becomes so. The shadows creep in, the demons, the monsters, and leading them. Kurama and Yase. Hi, Yase, great to see you. We get two lines in close proximity that are completely opposite. Koto, I didn't think I'd find you here. You were looking for me? Now I caught you. Also, I came here for you. I didn't think I'd find you here. I came here for you. Big difference. Big, literally opposite things. I didn't think you would be here, and yet I came here to find you. So you're lying. Oh boy, what are you lying about and why? Oh, you're trapping her. You're betraying her. What is this place? What the fuck is going on? And would you help us with a little experiment? Yeah, sure. Faux shizzle. I told you I would. Oh, okay. That's implicit consent to anything we want to do. Ha 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 ha. And their response is great. What happened to the rules? That's hypocritical coming from you, Myoe. Get off your high horse. Great line. I have no idea where this is going. Very real. Definitely a mood. Definitely feel that, Koto. We'd like you to play with him a little. By which we mean Bisha fucking Maru. We get this line, meaningless offspring are useless, which implies knowledge that she is related to them, but I'm not sure. I just don't know. So we would like to stake something on your childish potential. And as it turns out, something in Bisha Maru is itself a portal to the other place somehow. I don't know. Exam follows the rules. He tries to fight against it. We get this one-shot, one-off line. Don't you want to meet Mom as well, Oedipus? Don't think that fits. Who says it? Also, the general effects animation and the beads as a fighting implement are really cool. The moment where you like boom and then they fly out as a giant ring around him is super dope, and they do some like avatar spinning around him things and some whipping out. It's really cool. It just looks awesome. Look at that, it's freaking awesome. Don't you want to meet mom as well, Oedipus? Obviously implying that he has an Oedipus complex or an Oedipus complex. Yes. That his feelings toward his mother are Oedipal. We don't have any evidence of that at all. This feels more like a jab, or like Yase doesn't have a great understanding of history and is just throwing shit at him. Because, like, elements of the Oedipal story work here. The disdain and potential hatred for your father works, but the deal with a Freudian Oedipus complex is that the root cause of your hatred and disdain for your father is because they're fucking your mother, and you have like an ingrown sexual desire towards your mother that is more in the realm of like children are possessive of their parents and they see that as being weird. Like that's what that ends up being. But that doesn't work here, because his reasons for not liking Mioe are not that he's banging mom. That's not why he doesn't like him. It's that he's been forced to stay alive after wanting to die for a long time, which is very different. So we'll just gloss over this Oedipus thing, because it's weird. Tired of waiting, get started to facilitate the reunion. And we do see that Ah and Un are trapped in there to somehow. Ah, it says we can't get out. Yeah, sure you know, Koto. I don't know what's going on, but fights between siblings only make the parents sad. Don't you all just want to see your parents again? Gosh, why can't we just work together? Also, I want this too. Well, that's nice. We can certainly arrange for some of that to happen. And then we get our dualistic battle and all of the interpersonal tensions that are just under the surface of these characters that we've been exploring for the last 5 episodes. All of Yakushimaru's resentment toward his siblings, all of Yase's resentment toward him for being human when she's not. All of it bubbles out into this flurry of claws and nails and teeth and hair pulling, essentially, that is this family feud. How are you going to make me human? Really didn't have to take hostages, and I would help you anyway. But you really shouldn't put expectations on kids. Also, moral of the story, don't trust adults. Pretty relevant in a sweeping sense, right? Yeah. So they fight, and they fight, and they fight, and they fight. Let me shut your mouth, demon. Rawr. Lots of cool animation. Lots of cool little moments. Behold, behold. What do you think those beads prove? Do it, do it. Do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it now. And we get this little thing, and so much of it is subtext, and that's super cool. How do we see Yakushimaru feeling about the beads? They're a burden, they're a weight, they're a trap, they're something put upon him that he doesn't want, and yet he cherishes them and treasures them like crown jewels. That responsibility was something Dad never gave us. Different things in families get looked upon in different ways, right? If the eldest is expected to take over the family business, and the younger son or younger child is allowed more freedom, often what happens in that kind of a family dynamic is that the younger child is envious of their older child's like inheritance, and the older child is envious of their younger child's freedom. One feels the weight of responsibilities as a burden, the other sees it as a gift. One feels the freedom and lack of attention as a negative, and the other sees it as the goal, right? Often we become exactly the opposite of what our parents put upon us, especially when there are multiple siblings offered different things and they can actively look at the other sibling and see what they have and go, ooh, I want that instead. Why can't I have the running the business instead? Why can't I have the monk beads instead? While the person carrying the beads goes, you have no idea what you're asking for, man. And neither of them can ever understand each other. Because how could they? Totally different perspectives. Which is the one you'd miss most is really hard to ask. I don't know what she means by that, because then zappy zaps happen and we teleport to a different world. Which one would you miss most? Is she asking Yase or Kurama? Which of us? I don't know. We use Kill the Breaker, an obvious, this is totally gonna work, super powered technique, until hard cut to Shoko, who goes, Baka, Baka, Baka. Perfect, all according to plan. Get chomped, get teleported to a broken moonscape of brokenness, fall upon it. Something happens with the combination of the mirror and the hammer. Right? It's this moment when they kind of overlap that something happens and a doorway is opened. I don't know why. I would assume that it's something like the power of the raw gets channeled through the mirror like a prism into something powerful and something happens. I don't know. But it's interesting, and so we fall. And we see that they think they have failed. But that just brings them back to the status quo of nothing ever changes. It can't get worse. We fall and fall on this strange scape. And they're freaking out. Let us out, let us out, let us out. And from the world, as we fall toward the moon, appears Koto, who embraces her not-self and goes, wow, we finally found you. And that's where we end the episode. So the first half of the episode is a deeply depressing impossibility to find meaning. Like, you could say it's like a search for meaning, except that the search is for non-meaning. It's for dying. I want to die. There is no meaning in this world. That is explicitly his outlook. I want to die. And then the middle portion is the evolution past that, which never happened, right? He changed and he aged, but he never evolved past that. He is still that boy sitting in that room, dead eyes, kneeling in a pool of his own blood, unable to die. And then makes a legitimate connection with Koto. And then, boom, the trap springs and Koto is off to somewhere else. Whoa. Whoa. Wackety wavy, inflatable arm flailing plot, man. So that's a pretty inflatable plot, man. It looked real thin before, and then we pumped some air into it, and whoop, it's a big 3D thing. It's like it's real. This show is really good. And I don't mean just like, I enjoy watching this. I mean, there is artistic merit here. This is good. Capital G, good. Cool shit going on in the ideation process of this show. And also in the conveyance of that information to the audience. It's super dope. Wow. I'm going to have to wrap there because I don't have more thoughts to give about this episode. I'm sure that I will as soon as I stop recording. But I've been Teeaboo. This has been Kyousougiga, episode 6. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have because this episode was bonkers. And I hope to catch you next week for the next episode. If you want that a little bit early, it'll be up on Patreon a little bit early. You can check that out if you want to. It's linked in the description. Otherwise, I will see you next week for the next episode of Kyousougiga. Peace.